Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar with Randolph Kahle, Google Cloud Certifications and their Relevance. Now the Google platform, the Google Cloud Platform has provided a full range of scalable, secure, and cost-effective services running out of Google's modern data centers and connected by Google's super high-speed worldwide network. This webinar is a brief introduction to the Google Cloud Platform and the importance of certifications in GCP products. Now, if you're not familiar with Randolph, let's take care of that right now. He is a partner at Databliss LLC. He is an authorized Google instructor who is certified on many GCP products, including AppEngine, Compute Engine, Cloud Storage, Cloud SQL, and BigQuery. He is also the co-author of a number of the new Google training courses here at Simplilearn. He was previously the Director of Marketing at 1060 Research and has a long career working with well-known brands like Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, and GTE Sylvania, to name a few. So he's going to be laying down more than just a little bit of wisdom here for you folks, and we're super happy to have him on board. Before we start, though, I want to make sure that everybody is familiar with their dashboards and that you're hearing us okay. So take a look at your dashboard. You should see a questions module. That's a place for you to be able to type questions for the rest of us here on the admin side to see and respond to. So go ahead and test that module, if you will. Just type in there and say hello to Randolph. Let him know that you're excited that he's here and that you're looking forward to learning a few new things. And that way I will also know that you all are hearing me just fine. My microphone is working and I'm not just speaking into the void here. So go ahead and type in hello for me if you could. Let me know that you're all on board. All right, Giju, thank you for joining us. Hello, he says hello. That's great. A few other folks on there saying hi, so good to know that you're able to hear us okay. Here's how this is going to work. Randolph is going to be giving his presentation over the next 30 minutes or so, and after that we'll move into a Q&A. So during the presentation, if you have any questions, this question module that you're using will be your best friend. Go ahead and type your questions in there and send them through. We don't take them real time. Randolph will finish his presentation and then we'll loop back around and do a complete Q&A at the end of the session and do our best to get to as many of you as we possibly can. If you are interested in sharing what you're learning, if you hear some nugget of wisdom and you want to make your friends jealous and make them wish that they were here too, you go ahead and share it out on your social platforms. You can use the hashtag SLWebinars if you like. I think that's all you need to hear from me. You know how to use your dashboards. You know why you're here. You're in here to hear Randolph, not me. So without further ado, please return your seats and your tray tables to a full and upright position. Observe the no smoking sign. And remember, no flash photography. Randolph, my friend, I'm going to turn things over to you. It's all yours.
Great. Thank you very much. And hi to everyone. I'm pleased to be here to spend a little bit of time with you and appreciate your being here, your attendance and your time and your attention. What I want to talk about today is what's going on in terms of the cloud in general and the Google Cloud Platform. I think one of the things that's kind of interesting is that we're in a point of transition, and it's an opportunity. Whenever there's change, there's an opportunity for you to take advantage of the changes and align yourself with a change and take advantage for your career, and also just if you're interested, just your own education about what's going on. So the cloud platform itself, the thing that's really interesting, and I've seen quite a few transitions. I've been in the industry for a while, and at HP I was pushing the relational database technology, and then at Microsoft I was working on SQL Server, so that was a wave of change when people are adopting relational databases, and other waves that have come such as Java. You know, there are a lot of people that got on board really early and they took advantage of it, became experts and known in the industry. Well, there's a new one coming, which is cloud computing, and the thing that's interesting about this, it's really about economics. It is about technology, but the reason that companies are moving to cloud computing is fundamentally economics. And you know, I'd say in 10 years we'll have a conversation and we'll say, do you remember when we used to buy computers instead of rent them? And it's a broad-based change, and it's happening right now. The cost advantages of renting are kind of interesting. Google made a presentation recently, and they said that over the 4-year life of computing equipment, that's kind of the lifespan that they consider, the major cost of computing is energy. Not the RAM, not the disk, not the CPU, but it's energy. And they're very, very focused on energy efficient operations of all their data centers. They have their new machine learning technology optimizing each data center in each geographic location. So they're monitoring ambient temperatures, they're monitoring all sorts of things to make sure that each data center is optimized for energy efficiency. And if you think about all the technology and all the resources that they're putting into that, it's almost impossible for a corporation, especially a small company, to match that. So if they're focusing on that kind of efficiency and cost savings, it's going to be impossible to buy computers and have them run as cost effectively as Google. And so you're going to see that there's going to be a point when it's obvious that you're going to be much, much better off renting rather than buying. And that's just the beginning of it, because there's also the question of, do you buy enough capacity to make sure that the people who are coming to your application get the response time they need? And that usually can be an over-allocation of resources. You have to buy tons and tons of servers. And a better idea is to do spot purchasing of compute power. So you rent exactly what you need when you need it. So companies are looking at this and they're realizing, you know, it's not the technology, it's the economics. It's a very, very compelling economic argument. And there have been impediments. About 5 years ago, I was working with a company, and they were very, very resistant to moving to the cloud, and the main reason is security. And now you can look at companies, then they have to consider, okay, hiring security people, they're in great demand, obviously, because of all the threats that are out there. And Google has attracted the very, very top, the brightest security minds, and they've got hundreds of them working on the task of securing the cloud. And so, once again, the advantage goes to the cloud vendor, Google, in providing not just cost-effective computing, but secure computing. One of the things you need to also consider is that cloud computing is a moment in our history of IT when we're moving from physical computing to virtual and abstract computing. And that's actually an opportunity, because if you are aligned with the new abstractions, if you understand them ahead of other people, then people are going to look to you to guide them, to give, you know, you're going to be able to develop better, you aren't going to understand exactly what the platform's all about. And what I've discovered is that some of the abstractions, such as networking, are actually very different from physical networking. I'll just give you one simple example. I'll call it the real world, where we have computers that we buy and network equipment that we buy and cables that we connect. If you take two computers and connect them to a network, by default they can talk to each other. They can send packets back and forth. Well, in the cloud, in the Google Cloud Platform, if you have two computers and you connect them to a network, by default they cannot talk to each other. It's the exact opposite. So that's kind of a 180-degree different way of looking at things. And that has really important implications when you think about how do you design and deploy a corporate network to include DMZs, which would be the traditional view, and other kinds of isolations for your computers. And what happens is you have to throw a lot of that out. If you are then able to understand what the abstractions are and what the ramifications are, you're going to be a leader in the networking area, and you'll be able to help companies, large and small, move to the cloud. So there's a huge area of room for you. You can go in and master and understand these abstractions and then position yourself at the leading edge of this new wave that's going to be with us for the next 10, 20 years. And why Google? Well, Google is an engineering-driven company, fundamentally. They're very, very innovative. They have published a large volume of papers like MapReduce. They innovated on that. They published the paper. The open source community saw that, and they developed Hadoop. And that's just one example. It's technology after technology Google is innovating. And they're not standing still. You might take a snapshot and say, well, there are other companies that are kind of catching up, but Google is not standing still. They're working on some really amazing stuff that they're going to be revealing over the next few years. And they have built, for their own purposes, a global platform that is supporting their search, their Gmail, their hosted business applications, that is absolutely state-of-the-art. They have fiber optic networking that's a mesh network across the planet. They have data centers that are absolutely brilliantly engineered. All of this originally to host their services. Then they made the decision to open that up for us. So that's really the opportunity that's coming available. Google has opened up the cloud for our use. They're a leader in cost efficiency. They're innovating like crazy. Their networking is absolutely state-of-the-art. And now we can come to the cloud, we can come to the Google Cloud and build applications that scale just as Google apps scale, which is a really exciting opportunity. They are seriously focused on the cloud. They have their leading card on the table is AppEngine. They decided that they wanted to share with everyone the architecture that they believe is the right architecture for building highly scaled applications. And to be honest with you, I found that some developers really didn't understand it. They came to it and they saw a very constrained and highly opinionated architecture. And some developers understood it and embraced it, and some kind of bounced off. And that they then decided, okay, if that's where the state is, if people really want virtual machines instead, let's release virtual machines. So they released Compute Engine, and then they opened up more and more of their cloud. And then they realized that they needed to organize themselves to really focus on the cloud in terms of an enterprise to enterprise sale. And they started hiring people to help them build the cloud, not just as a bunch of technology. Remember, they're an engineering-driven company, but also state-of-the-art in terms of being able to sell to companies large and small. So they've been hiring some executives across the industry to help them focus on bringing the cloud, not just technologically, but also in terms of products and services and training. And whenever there's a shift, there's an opportunity. And whenever there's a really disruptive change, there's huge opportunities. And that's what's happening. And it's kind of a subtle change because a lot of people are saying, well, it's a cloud, it's virtual, it's not really that different. But it really, really is different. Some jobs will disappear. You know, if you think about the fact that Google will manage a lot of the infrastructure, and then companies don't need to have those people around. One example is Khan Academy. This is a company that's innovated in the way that they deliver training information. They happen to have selected AppEngine as their platform, and they've focused on encoding their business logic in AppEngine. And the bottom line is they don't have anyone on staff that's a system administrator. They delegate all of that to Google. So it's not a question of that they didn't lose any jobs, they just never hired any system administrators. So a lot of things that are moving towards the cloud and the cloud management and what Google has expertise on, those jobs will probably be reduced, but then new jobs will appear. You're going to need, the companies are going to need to have people that know how to architect on the cloud. They're going to need people that know how to deal with the abstractions and code to the new APIs and paradigms. And it's early. The shift is just happening now. I was working with a company about 3 or 4 years ago, and they decided to move to the cloud, but there was a lot of resistance, there was a lot of reluctance. They did make the change, but at the same time, a lot of other companies I talked to said, no, that's not for us, you know, it's not ready, we don't think that's the right thing for us. And here, now in 2016, I'm seeing across the board a widespread adoption of the cloud. And as I've said, I've seen many technology adoption cycles. And generally what happens is the companies who have a lot of money, who can benefit from the new technology, will invest in it and then reap the benefits of it. And then there's a bunch of companies that are the laggards, the ones that are the last to adopt. And that's typical of any cycle. So, for example, maybe when new technology comes out, an investment bank might invest in it because they can trade stocks better, or maybe they can understand the market better. What I'm finding is that across the it's different. It's it's kind of an interesting change. So there's an opportunity for you to become a thought leader. There's an opportunity for you to be a technology expert. You can become a mentor, you can become a leader, and you can also play the role of a trainer and a consultant. Those are all positions that are going to be needed as companies move. You know, they make the decision to go to the cloud, and then they need to figure out exactly how best to utilize it. I have literally been involved in training inside a company who has elected to go with Google, and they've signed a deal, they're going to get on board, and then I've gone to train large parts of the company to explain exactly what they've bought. They know they want to do it, and the leaders of the company made the decision, but lots of people in the company really didn't understand why they were making the shift. So that's an opportunity for me that opened up. I've gone in and helped a lot of groups understand why their company is going to the cloud. And of course, once they realize what the advantages are, they're very, very comfortable with it. So what can you do? How can you take advantage of it? Well, it's all about education, of course. First, you can just learn about the general cloud computing movement. And that would be reading articles, seeing blogs, and just kind of get a sense of what's going on. And then the next step is specific training. So there's training opportunities that are becoming available. Very, very good courses that will give you an introduction to the cloud. And then if you want specific training in areas like if you're a developer or if you're a systems operations professional, if you're an architect, or if you're interested in your professional direction aligns with big data, then there's training courses for you there also. So here are some roles. These are some example roles. Solution developers that are going to be writing applications for the Google Cloud Platform. And you might have Python experience or Java experience, Ruby, PHP, something like that. And your passion is development. Well, look at the training that's available for solution developers. If you are an architect and you want to understand what the implications are of the cloud, what these new abstractions are, and how you might want to change the way you think, then pursue some training it's targeted at solution architects. If you're a systems operation professional, so that would be a person who is focused on making sure the computers are running, that the performance of the computers are there, the network operations are of high performance, and so on, then you might want to pursue some training that is focused on system operation professionals. Now here are some learning paths. So Google has actually made an interesting shift. When I first became involved, there was a course called CP300, and it was a 5-day course that was product focused. And in those days, you would take the course. It was 5 days, and there were 5 exams. And once you pass all 5, you got a certificate that said you're now certified for the whole platform. Google realized that wasn't really the way that they wanted to go forward, and they've made a major change, and they're now pursuing role-based training. So they really are focused on people who are solution developers, data analysts, solution architects, and system operation professionals. And this is a sketch of the current courses that are available. So the entry is CP100. It's a 1-day class on the Google Cloud Platform Fundamentals. It is a long day. I've been teaching a lot of these courses, and it's about 75% lecture, explaining the abstractions, introducing you to exactly what the cloud's about, why Google is a fantastic place to be, and then 25% is lab exercises. So you get hands-on experience deploying code into the cloud, seeing it run in AppEngine and Compute Engine and Container Engine. So it's a really good way to get a solid grounding on exactly what the cloud's all about. And if you're a solution developer, the next thing to look at is CPD 200. This class is a 3-day class that's focused on developing solutions for the Google Cloud Platform. And you'll see how to build AppEngine applications. You'll be using Go, and you'll be using either Java or Python. And you'll build a real-world application and deploy it and see how it runs. And when you leave the class, you have the source code. The source code all works, and so if you want to take it and extend it or experiment with it, then it's there for you. If you're a systems operation professional, the entry point is still CP100, again, that one-day course. And then CP0200 is a 4-day class that is really in 2 phases. And the first phase, you will learn how to build a continuous integration environment using Jenkins. And it calls on the use of multiple projects. You'll have Jenkins building things in a cluster of builder nodes, and you'll learn all about those details. Then you take the output of that, the compute engine image and the Docker image, and then in the second 2 days you'll deploy that in a high availability configuration. So you'll learn about global load balancers, you'll learn about managed instance groups, and how to build a system that's going to scale. So that's a 4-day class, and at the end you're going to be very, very familiar with the cloud platform. The class has an interesting design point. It is mostly lab work. The learning is in the doing. And in fact, on the 4th day, I've taught this class many times now, and on the 4th day, I probably talk to the students for about 15 minutes, and the rest of the day, it's guided lab exercises that take you through paths that allow you to explore different parts of the cloud, and you gain a high degree of competency and comfort as a system operation professional. If you're a data analyst, after you take the CP100, there's another 100 level class that you would want to look at. It's called CPB 100, and it's a big data only 1-day introduction. So that's a great way to see the whole spectrum of big data products. After that, there's a CPB 200, which focuses on Google's BigQuery product, which is an amazingly fast SQL language-based processing engine. And then there's CPB 201, which looks at the rest of the big data on the Google Cloud Platform. If you're a solution architect, the entry point is still CP100 again, and then there's a CPA 200 course that focuses on platform solutions for architects. And why Simplilearn? Oh, sorry, I missed here. Simplilearn is really focused on providing training in a way that you are going to be comfortable participating with and practicing with. So they have instructor-led training, and they also have e-learning content. And we'll get into some of those details after, probably when we switch to Q&A. We want to probably give you a chance to hear a little bit more about exactly what Simplilearn can do to help you get on board and up to speed. So in conclusion, I'm seeing the movement to the cloud is now. As I said a couple of years ago, I'd say maybe it's starting, but now it really is accelerating. I'm seeing more and more companies coming on board. So the movement is now, and I believe it's going to play out as most technology adoption curves do. It's going to play out over 10 years. So if you jump on board now, if you invest in yourself, you invest in your career, you master the different technologies and the abstractions, you're going to see a good career path for at least 10 years and maybe longer. So it's new. As I said, the ideas that are powering the cloud really are different. They look like they're the same as what I would call the real world of physical hardware, and that's what's kind of seductive about it. It's the same, but then you can become the master of what's different and then really provide value add to companies that you're consulting with or enhance your own career as you're moving forward. So it's driven by economics, as I was saying. And that makes it another interesting dimension to this whole shift. It's not the question of, oh, okay, there's a new technology, we need to think about adopting it, and maybe the benefit is incremental. I think that this economic-driven movement to the cloud is absolutely fundamental. It's a major shift from buying to renting, and it even has an impact for corporations in how they do their accounting. I mean, if you buy stuff, you have to find the money, you have to justify the purchase, then you buy the equipment, and then you have to justify the fact that you bought the equipment. And that's a huge headache. And now, instead, companies are going to be able to say, I need just this amount of computing to solve this problem, and I'm going to get this benefit, and it's going to be much easier for companies to justify because it's going to be a smaller initial amount of money. It's going to track very directly with their return. And as far as corporate decision makers, that's a much easier decision to make. So we're going to see, because of the economics, we're going to see an acceleration of adoption of new technology. And there's amazing stuff on the horizon like machine learning that Google's coming up with. So I'm pretty convinced. It's the time to switch. I've made the switch. I've spent a lot of time mastering this, and I'm really happy to share my observations with you. And I want to thank you for your attendance. And now if you have questions, Chip, do you want to chime in?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Fascinating stuff, and it's really, for those of us that have been around in the interweb industry in any fashion for the last 10 years or so, it's been really incredible watching this evolution. So the opportunities are huge. Before we jump into the Q&A, though, I'm going to ask everyone here to indulge me for about 60 seconds or so. I am going to launch a little poll here on the screen. That means that it's going to take over the screen for a moment, and we're going to lose that slide deck. There we go. This is a public-facing webinar, which means that some of you who are joining us may already be training with Simplilearn, and some of you may not yet be. You might be here because you saw something online about this free webinar. Maybe a friend shared a link with you, and you're here for this information from Randolph, and that's fantastic. We're happy to have you here. It's a great way for us to give back to the community, make sure that we're making our faculty and our subject matter experts available to folks to help bring them up to speed on current issues. But webinars is just a piece of what we do. So I wanted to make sure that you understood, and Randolph mentioned this a little bit already, there are lots of training resources inside of Simplilearn as a learning platform that you might be interested in, because after all, our core service is more than just these webinars. We are, in fact, a business and technology training provider. We have over 400 web-based training courses across a wide spectrum of professional skill sets, and those training courses are accredited, most of them, by over 40 third-party certifying bodies like Prince2 and PMI, OMCP, the Open Group, and so on. All the training is specifically designed to prepare you for those third-party certification exams wherever possible, and always based on the very latest BOK, B-O-K, the body of knowledge that is prescribed by those certifying organizations. And all of these courses, of course, are designed and presented by people who really know their stuff, by a faculty of experienced professional trainers and working professionals in those various areas of expertise. So when you join these training programs, you get structured courses with all the information and resources on practical experience you're really going to need to successfully pass the related certification tests. In a lot of cases, you're going to get lab exercises, you'll get simulation exams, you might get access to any additional platforms or software to run experiments and practice projects. You'll also get access to active moderated forums where you can interact directly with our faculty and with other students and our staff to ask questions about the materials that you're learning, and maybe to even ask questions about how to apply what you're learning to your own real-world challenges. So if you'd like to learn more, go ahead and tick the appropriate box. We'll have someone get back in touch with you and give you a tour, maybe help you find the right training based on what your goals are for your next steps in your career. And if you've got a team, of course, you can talk to us about that too. There's no better way to bring everybody on your in-house team up to the same level of expertise and get them all speaking the same language to have them all share training resources and make themselves more valuable to your team and to your business and to your customers and clients. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. We'll get it out of the way, and it should revert back to Randolph's screen. Sure enough, we're seeing the thank you screen. So thank you everyone for indulging me really quickly, and we're going to jump on a few questions here. Thanks again, Randolph, for all the great information.
You're welcome.
The first most common question we get, and I'll field this one, is always, will the webinar recording be available, or can we get the slide deck? And the short answer to that question is most of our webinars are recorded and are processed and edited down to their most salient points and then posted somewhere for you to see. The best place for you to keep up is probably going to be, if you're not a Simplilearn member already, is to go to YouTube and find our channels there and subscribe. And very often we are posting these recordings there for public consumption, and you will be notified if you're subscribed to the channel. But you may also find them posted to the internal learning platform as well. So if you're already a member, keep an eye out there, and if you're having any challenges finding recordings, by all means let us know. Mahendran has a question, and I hope this is specific enough for you, Randolph. Is it mandatory to be expert in all the aspects of the Google Cloud platform, or is it good enough to just specifically focus on one area? How valuable is it to cross-train across all of the various aspects of this?
That's a great question, and I think that the reality is because the cloud is moving so quickly, and if you look at Google specifically, they started out with AppEngine, and that was really the first offering that they had. And then they came out with maybe 5 offerings. In the last year, I've seen an incredible number of offerings come out. And if you asked me that question 2 years ago, I'd say you could probably comfortably master it. Now I think you really need to make a decision and figure out what your passion is. Is your passion big data? And then I would suggest you focus on that. Is it building highly scaled applications for websites? Maybe you want to focus on AppEngine. Are you interested in this incredible movement towards Docker and containerization? Then look at Container Engine. So the answer really is it's not mandatory that you master the whole cloud at all. I will say the fundamental class, that CP100, is a good class to take, because what you need to understand are the terms, the terminology, and the abstractions. And they're not hard. They're not that many abstractions to know. There's some ideas in networking you need to get comfortable with, and you need to understand, for example, in Compute Engine, when you ask for a disk, you're not getting a disk, you're getting a rated allocation of a network-attached storage device. That's different. So there's probably 12, 1 dozen to 2 dozen kind of ideas, and if you get those, you're good. And then make a decision where you want to focus on the cloud, and don't worry if there's parts of the cloud that don't interest you. It's not going to be a handicap at all.
Terrific. So there is absolutely room, and probably to being hyper-specific in how you approach. Given that, let's say that your passion is big data. How expert should someone be in their particular area of interest? I mean, should they really know and maybe have been certified somehow in big data before they move into the Google training so that they can apply that other expertise to the Google Cloud? Or would someone possibly walk into Google Cloud training with really very little or no background expertise in another one of these specialties?
Good question, and I'm going to answer it possibly in an unexpected way. I'm going to ground the answer in the fact that Google is an engineering company. They're passionate about their engineering. They do brilliant engineering. And when they say something is an introductory class, it pretty much is. But for example, if you then go into the CPD 200, I'm going to switch the focus from a big data over to CPD for just a second, if you don't mind. But if you go to CPD 200, they're going to expect that you actually really know Java or Python or Go or PHP. So what they're going to train you on is, given that you know how to program, here is how you're going to program in the cloud. Now for big data, I would say you need to have studied a little bit about what the ideas are of big data, but there will be a bit of an introduction. So I would say you probably want to spend some time getting some of the fundamental ideas and then going into the classes. Or the CPB 100 class for big data. Take that and then calibrate what you know against what Google is talking about and gain a degree of comfort. Maybe you're ready to go, or maybe you need to do a little bit more studying. How's that for an answer?
I think that's great. That's perfect. To expand on that just a little bit, when we're talking about job search and making yourself stand out in a crowded job market, Obviously, pardon me, having training and certification on the Google platform is going to be a value add for you, but are there other kinds of training and certifications that aren't specifically programming or GPC, but things like Tableau or project management at the general level and things like that that would also possibly help you stand head and shoulders above other applicants that are challenging you in the job space?
That certainly wouldn't hurt. And I want to jump back just a sec to Google specifically. They have made an interesting decision to come out with what they're calling digital certifications. I'm not sure if they're out just yet, but what they want to do is give you essentially a digitally signed certificate that you can put on your LinkedIn page that absolutely verifies that you have this certification. So originally they would send you a nice PDF and say, yes, you're certified, but they're getting really serious about, acknowledging the accomplishment that you have and give you a digital cert that you can put on your page. So that's what Google's doing, and absolutely it doesn't hurt to also have other areas of expertise. So it really comes down to what you want to do with the cloud knowledge. If you want to help a company become great developers, so then yes, some development management expertise or an understanding of how to be agile would certainly help.
Fantastic. Pardon me. Okay, we got another question here. Is this a career path that is appropriate for private contractors? And given your experience, it sounds like it's certainly working for you. Or are most of the opportunities, are we going to find them to be on in-house teams and at the enterprise level?
Interesting question. And the honest answer is, I don't know. I think it's too early to really tell. Let me just give you kind of an example and a counterexample. Yes, the idea of a cloud is going to be very appealing to a large company, and they're going to be interested in having their developers trained. But let's take a look at AppEngine. I mean, I'll make a statement it's kind of, I'll make a categorical statement and then I'm going to qualify it. AppEngine is free. Google provides a free tier of use for AppEngine. And so if you're an individual developer and you've got a really interesting idea and you want to toy around with the idea of a startup company, you can develop an application, deploy it to AppEngine. Remember, AppEngine is focused on being a highly scaled web system, and you can run it for free up to a certain limit. You don't have to go out and get angel funding and buy a bunch of servers. So you as an individual can experiment with an idea, run it for free, and if it takes off, then you can go to Google and say, okay, this is successful. I'm going to go and have a billing account, and I'll be happy to pay for the processing for the thousands and hundreds of thousands of users that are using my application. And the other thing that's really cool about that, and I can't tell you how many groups I've talked to that have come up with an interesting idea and they've built it maybe on, well, I don't mean to pick on a particular framework, but maybe like Ruby on Rails or something like that that lets you get your ideas going really fast, but they do have scalability limits. Well, if you pick AppEngine, again, it's free to start, and it will scale at Google scale. It'll scale as high as you can imagine. So yeah, it's available. There are pathways available for individual developers as well as corporate developers.
Boy, I wish I'd have known more about this when my son was launching his startup 2 years ago. That's exactly the sort of thing that he could have benefited from. They built their They built their site from the ground up, and they rented a server, and they were paying out while they were still just trying to make things work right. And when you're strapped for cash, wow, what a terrific
It makes a huge difference. Oh yeah.
That's amazing. Maybe it's not too late. I should talk to him about
Make the change now. It's not too late.
Exactly. Another question here for you. Can you compare the Google Cloud Platform to AWS? Why would somebody choose to specialize in one or the other? Are they complementary, or are they really two completely different kinds of products or services?
They're not completely different kinds of products. I did actually work with a company. My first exposure to the cloud was in Amazon. I helped a company move the read channel of their website to the Amazon cloud, and I spent about 3 years there. I could have a long conversation about it, but I think I've come to a kind of a succinct description of why I have moved over to Google. Google has done a brilliant job of designing the abstractions. If you look at what they present to you, it's very easy to understand it. The ideas are very simple. They couple that with very sensible defaults. So you can go to Google and say, I would like 3 computers and I want them connected to a network and I want network traffic to work in such and such a way. And it literally will take me about 5 minutes to get that going. And I've used DigitalOcean, I've used Remu hosting, I've used Linode, I've used a bunch of different clouds. And I find Google very, very easy to approach, but it doesn't stop there. You can reach around back and they give you all the knobs to let you do the tuning. So that to me is a big, big difference. The other thing that I've been discovering is that Google's networking is absolutely brilliant. It's insanely fast. It's very easy to use, and it's very well engineered. So I find that, and the other thing, and this is going to change minute by minute, day by day, month by month, because it is a competitive environment, and it's about pricing. Google is very, very focused on being competitive on pricing. So, for example, you can, after 10 minutes of use, your compute engine instance is billed by the minute. And so you literally can. I just priced this out today. I was talking to somebody, and I said, look at this. You can rent a 32-core machine with 208 gigabytes of memory for 20 minutes. Maybe you're going to test an algorithm, a caching algorithm. You can rent it for that amount of time for 50 cents. I mean, that's pretty cool. Some cloud vendors, if you want to use a computer, they'll say, okay, hour by hour, here's the charge. And then if you go into production, you can reap a sustained use discount. So over the month, as you use it more and more, you'll get a 20%, a 25% discount on the charges for your computer. So you don't have to say to Google, I want to use this computer for 3 years and now I get my discount. It's month by month. And they also have something called a preemptible instance, which means that if you're willing to build an architecture that is tolerant of machines going away, like SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence was one of the first ones I encountered. That's a system where they're trying to do signal processing and they use your screensaver. Well, it's designed so you can turn your computer off and yet they can still get their work done. So your computer could go away, and so you can have something like that on the Google Cloud Platform. You can build a system, and as long as you're tolerant of machines going away, the price is 1/2. So you can save a lot of money there. So yeah, there are differences. I mean, Amazon has their own strengths, Google has their own strengths, Azure has its own strengths, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this plays out over the next 10 and 20 years. It is a competitive environment, and it's a horse race.
That pricing model is incredible, though. That's just astonishing to me that you can jump in there for the 20 minutes that you need to test and not feel obligated to bundle your testing times together to take advantage of a whole hour or something like that. You could be very agile under those circumstances.
Exactly.
That's tremendous. I got to say, just on a side note, that I nerded out when you started talking about SETI. So
yeah,
that's awesome. A buddy, an old colleague of mine, I haven't talked to him directly in a long time, Seth Shostak is one of the lead folks there at SETI, and super, super nice guy. If they're ever talking about SETI on TV or on the Discovery Channel or something, he's generally the guy that's on there. That's a super cool program, and fascinating to know that that they might be taking advantage of something like the Google Cloud. Who knew? All right, I have only one last question here, so we may be able to wrap up a little earlier than expected. But the question is about, we talk here about getting the training and the certifications and setting ourselves apart through that, and that's fantastic. But of course, a part of it too, and our success in any industry is investing in the community and getting to know other professionals and building colleague relationships and so forth. What industry events, conferences do you recommend that are can't miss? And the same might go for things like any particular LinkedIn groups that are highly trafficked and interactive for folks that are involved in the cloud computing industry.
I think,
and then I think following up on that too, I might ask if there are specific blogs or publications that you personally like to keep track of.
well, in terms of keeping track of Google, the velocity of innovation is amazing. And there are really three, I'll focus on Google first. So there are really three choices. You can get a monthly update, and I kind of go, well, that's not fast enough. They have a Twitter feed, and it's like, no, that's too much data. And the one I actually use is their blog. They have a blog for the cloud platform. They put out, on average, it's about one a day. Sometimes there's 2, maybe 3 posts, and then maybe they don't post for a couple days. But the information on the Google Cloud Platform blog is, they're good-sized articles. They talk about significant issues. They might talk about a particular architecture deployment on the cloud, and it might be 1 page, and it might be a dozen pages. So it's a significant bit of information. And that is actually one of the tabs that I open up every morning. I have a bunch of tabs I check. The other thing, yes, I think that we're still early enough that I don't know of any specific large-scale events that I'd say I'd specifically recommend. The Google obviously has theirs. There's Google Next and so on. What I would suggest instead is you look local. I've had incredible good fortune by checking on, like, maybe Meetup or something like that, and check in your local city or maybe neighboring cities and find out what's going on. I live in Fort Collins, Colorado, and there are some people that get together there, and sometimes I go down to Denver or down to Boulder, and I found in the Denver area, I'll just, there's an amazing amount of energy around Kubernetes and Docker and the container engine. There are literally companies there that are putting their intellectual back into that open source project, and they're sponsoring meetups. And even, it might be surprising, I'm tracking a language called Kotlin, which I think is pretty interesting, and I've gone to some meetups there, and the conversation goes to the cloud. So even if there's a meetup that's not cloud specific, you might find that there's conversations about it. But I think the key thing is find people who have the same interests that you do, local community, and get to know them and have conversations, because it is early. There are people who are thinking very, very carefully about the cloud and what it means and what the technological implications are. But I think there's a massive amount of opportunity for all of us to get together and talk about it in various groups and discover together what the opportunities are.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't think I could agree more. That's making the effort, particularly locally with meetups and whatnot, where you can get face-to-face with people and really build relationships with your colleagues. Certainly the way to go. I've been posting some links into the chat module for you folks, by the way. A couple of, I hope I found the right Google Cloud blog, and I posted that in there for folks, and also a link to the cloud services on Google, so you can take a look at that. The last thing I'm going to do here is share a few articles from Simplilearn regarding cloud computing in general and Google Cloud in particular. So take a look again in your chat module for those links. And the very last thing I'll do is share some links to the Simplilearn courses relevant to this. This will get you started. Go ahead and search around inside the Simplilearn platform there, and you'll find more courses perhaps that are relevant to you. But this will get you going. Now I got to get it to, there we go. Sorry about that. There's a few links to some courses there inside of Simplilearn. So you can take a look at those. If you need more guidance, like I said, feel free to hit the chat button on the site and let one of our staff give you some guidance on figuring out which courses and training might be best for your aspirations. But Randolph, I think we're going to wrap up just a few minutes early. I don't have any further questions queued up here from our attendees, and you've answered my personal questions as well, so I appreciate that. But with that said, thank you so much for sharing all your expertise with us.
Oh, glad to do so.
And we look forward to the next webinar with you, and that's the last link I will share here, by the way. Let me just scroll down to the bottom of my notes here and post one last link in here for you folks in the chat module, and that's a link to the upcoming webinars here at Simplilearn. So take a look there. That takes you into our Career Edge section of our website. You can scroll through by segment. You can look at resources on digital marketing, project management, cloud computing, and you'll see not only the articles that are relevant to that that area of interest, but also any of the upcoming webinars as well. So look around in there. You're welcome to join us for any future webinars. We're happy to have you on board. Always a pleasure, again, to share our SMEs with the community. And with that said, folks, Randolph, again, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time.
You're welcome.
And to everybody else, have a great rest of your morning or your afternoon or your evening. If it's the middle of the night, you're in Asia somewhere and you've joined us at midnight, thank you so much for taking a little time out of your night. Now it's time to go to bed. All right, thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.